So that was a pretty nice one there. I've seen it land right where the others were, and that has a 67.9 club head speed and a carry distance of 74. Alrighty guys, welcome back to the channel. My name's Mouque, and today we're going to be talking all things distance wedge play. Now that's a shot from between 30 meters and 120 meters. Let's learn how to do it. Let's get stuck in. Alrighty guys, so we all love to see it on TV, the low launching, high spinning wedge shot. Now this is something you'll see the pros play from between 30 to 120 yards or meters. And what you're going to see is the ball reacting on the green, and it's going to have one hop, two hops, and then it's going to spin. It's going to grab. Now depending on the conditions of the golf course, you might see it release just a little bit, or you might actually see it come back a little bit. I'm going to show you how to do that, and also to discuss how the environment that we're in and our equipment plays a huge role in hitting that golf shot. So the first thing that we need to discuss is our equipment. Now this shot is only possible if you're using decent wedges. So make sure you go out and you grab yourself a specialty wedge. The other thing you're going to need is a premium golf ball. Now there are so many golf balls on the market, and there is a reason why there are some more expensive than others, such as a Pro V1, okay? Those are designed to spin. We all love to hit the ball far, but what we need spin around the greens. And this is where the premium golf balls come in. Titleist Pro V1, Callaway Chrome Soft, TaylorMade TP5. Those are the golf balls that you're going to need in order to hit this shot. Now another thing that needs to be on our side for this shot is the conditions, the environment that we play in. So a lot of the times on TV, you're seeing pros back that ball up because they're playing on soft conditions, barely any wind. So if you're playing firm conditions and you're downwind, it's a very, very difficult way to stop a golf ball. So the conditions do have to be in our favor. And lastly, we need high friction. So what this means is we don't want any interference between the ball and the club face. So if you're in the rough, more likely is the ball sitting down, you're going to impact the rough before you hit the ball. Things like water. When you're playing early in the morning, there's water that gets trapped between the club and the ball. All of that takes away friction, so we need maximum friction. Now today I'm going to be playing these shots off a tee to maximize that friction, to show you what's capable or what's possible when we're on really good lies and we have the correct environment. So now that our equipment and our environment have been checked off, how do we hit this golf shot? What's the technique behind it? Well, the research has shown that we need a shaft angle of between 12 and 14 degrees of shaft lean. Now I know what you're thinking. That's going to be steep. That's going to make my club slam into the ground. But that's not quite the case as long as your technique is correct. So here's a really easy way to think of how to use the correct technique on this shot. So if we need our golf club to be leaning that far forward, what that does is it reduces the loft on the club face. Okay, so we are reducing what we call the dynamic loft on this shot. So we want that shaft lean in order to play the low launching spinning wedge shot. If we were to come in and have a vertical shaft, what we're doing is we're providing too much loft, and that ball is just going to slip up the face of the golf club and just pop straight in the air. Now it will spin, but it's not going to be that 1-2 check kind of ball that we want to see like we see on TV. So a really simple way to play this shot is, if I was to take a ball, I want to place this ball somewhat slightly further back of center. And what that's going to do is that's going to set my shaft angle at setup. Now from here, we want to try and return this golf club to roughly 12 to 14 degrees of shaft lean. So how do we do that without diving that thing into the ground? We want our angle of attack to be fairly shallow. We don't want it to be steep and driving that club into the ground, but we also don't want to be hitting up on it either. So here's the key to all of this. What we're going to feel is when we take this club back, I'm going to feel like I stay in my lead side a little bit. So I'm going to set up with my pressure on my lead side. I'm going to feel like I stay there during the backswing. So you'll notice that I'm still on top of that golf ball. And then on the way down, I want to continue moving forward, but then this is the moment where we need to jump up. And this is what keeps the club out of the ground. If we can feel like we push up and extend our body upwards, that's going to keep the club out of the ground. If you just chuck that ball position back in your stance and stay down and try and drive this club in, you're going to have too much shaft lean. The club's going to dig into the ground. The ball's actually going to come out too low and not be able to stop on the green. It will have the spin, but the launch and the angle that the ball's coming down is not going to be high enough for that ball to sit softly on the green. So the key to all of this is we need to feel like we extend upwards, and that's what keeps the club out of the ground. It's what we call, we create this slight flat spot. We're not just driving that club into the ground. So that's the technical component of trying to hit this golf shot. So now that we have our equipment dialed in, our environment is ideal, and our technique is sound, now it's time to train this movement. Now, to judge the distance, I've got my TrackMan here, so I've got some feedback. And the feedback I'm looking for is going to be my spin rate. I'm going to be looking towards 8,000 to 10,000 in my spin rate. That's going to be a pretty high number. Anything over 9 to 10,000 is going to be stopping really, really quickly on that green. The other thing I'm looking for is my launch angle. Now my launch angle, I'm ideally looking for something between 25 degrees and 30 degrees. And that would look something like that. Okay, that would be too low, that would be too high. So we're looking for something in that kind of array of launch angle there. The other thing that I'm looking at is my dynamic loft. So I've got a 56 degree wedge right here, and I'm looking to maybe have, you know, if I've got 12 to 14 degrees of shaft lean on this club, I should be looking to have roughly 40 to 45 degrees of loft at impact, and that's dynamic loft. Static loft is just my golf club sitting on the ground. That's going to change the loft. So in order to hit this shot, I'm going to use the techniques that I discussed earlier. I've got my TrackMan here. I'm going to try and hit this roughly 75 to 80 yards, okay, or meters as I've got it on this TrackMan. So I've got the ball sitting just on a tee here so I can maximize that friction. I'm going to set up to the ball, a little bit of pressure on that lead side, and I'm going to feel like I extend upwards through the downswing. So here we go. Got that a little thin there, but that's not too bad. Okay, so I've hit that golf shot, little thin, first swing of the day, please forgive me, but I'm looking at my numbers here and I'm seeing some pretty good numbers that I want to look at. So I've got here my launch angle. It's 25.4 degrees. So remember we spoke about 25 to 30 is a pretty good launch angle. So I'm giving myself a tick for that one. My spin rate, 8,800. Remember, anywhere between 8,000 and 10,000 is a pretty good spin rate. My dynamic loft, I did thin that a fraction, so my dynamic loft is a lot less than I wanted it. But 38 degrees, considering I have a 56 degree wedge here, my math is correct, that's 18 degrees of loft that I have presented to the ball, less the static loft. So my static loft is 56 degrees and I've actually impacted with 38.4 degrees of loft. So there's some key numbers in there. My carry was a little down. I didn't hit it too well, but my numbers are suggesting that that launch angle is in the spot that I want. Everything there I'm happy with. Now I just have to work on the contact that I'm making. All right, so I'm going to give this another go. I'm looking at the same numbers as I was trying to produce earlier. Here we go, one more. Again, wasn't the best, but you can see there, launch angle 27. So a little bit higher, but that's more where I wanted. Remember, 25 to 30, that's pretty good. Dynamic loft, 39.9, let's call that 40. Pretty good. That's a 16 degree less loft than at static. And I'm looking at my spin rate again. 8,500, which is pretty good. That's stopping pretty quickly when it gets on the green. Now there's one more thing about this, is when you are practicing with your wedges, make sure you are cleaning your golf clubs at all times. Again, remember that word friction. We don't want any interference between the ball and the club face. So I'm wiping the club face full of dirt. I'm going to put that towel back, even to a point where I'm going to grab a tee. Just make sure there's no dirt in my grooves. Okay, that's another little hack when you're practicing your wedges, is make sure that every time you hit a golf ball that is so clean. Okay, now the last little thing I'm going to mention for those players who want to know, how do I know how to control my distance? Here's something you have to look for. Swing length and swing speed is really all you're looking for. Obviously we need dynamic loft to stay the same, all that kind of stuff. But in theory, what we want to try and do is we want to try and swing it the same length every time, depending on the distance you're trying to hit. So for this one, I'm trying to hit it, say, I'm pretty close to a 70 to 73 carry here. So if I can get my left arm to parallel to the ground, and I can swing it at around 67 miles an hour, depending on contact, I'm going to carry that ball roughly between 70 and 73 meters every time. That is a given. And obviously I'm looking for my launch angle to still be 27, spin rate upwards of 8,000, and dynamic loft at around 40. So I'm going to hit one more shot, concentrating on where my left arm finishes and the speed that I'm hitting. So I'm looking for a 67 swing speed and a ball that goes between 70 and 73. So one more shot for you here today. Let's see if I can match those numbers up. So that was a pretty nice one there. I've seen it land right where the others were, and that has a 67.9 club head speed and a carry distance of 74. So the club head speed was maybe maybe a mile too high, but the carry number was 74. Now, if I had a flag at 72 and I'm trying to land it at 70 or 73, I'm pretty happy with 74. But I can tell just by doing all of that my left arm swing with my 56-degree wedge, with the club speed around 67 to 68, goes roughly 70 to 74 meters. Now, if I had that shot in a game of golf, I would be pretty comfortable with playing that length of a shot. So I would jot that down in a notebook or on my phone to say, hey, that's a pretty good yardage for me. That's a nice comfortable yardage. So whenever I have a 72 meter shot, it's go time. I'm going at any flag, no matter where it is, because I know the exact swing that I need. All right, guys, thank you for watching today's video. I hope you find this helpful. It is a lot easier if you've got a radar device, but if you don't, you can put some cones out on the range at 10 meter increments from, say, 30 all the way to 120, and try and practice your yardage that way. Thanks for watching today's video. Hope you enjoyed it. See you next time.